Hi.
Uh,
Super sorry, but I just want to do it again correctly. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Now we should both be on the screen together, which is what I wanted. Yep. See how we're together?
Perfect.
This is
Perfect.
what we need. Okay. And here we go. Sorry about that. Okay, honey.
Are you on?
Yep. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Victoria Reeves Show, where we have incredible conversations with creatives from a kaleidoscope of genres. Our guests let you in on their process, their inspiration, their blocks, their momentum, and their vision. This is some amazing stuff, okay? And I'm very excited. We're just reinventing ourselves on the regular here. We have a very special guest today, which is Wynn Harrison. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we jump into our interview. Wynn is a mixed multimedia artist who uses found objects and discarded cigar box for her collage artwork, which was recently exhibited at the Panorama Prayers Exhibit through the Cabinet of Curiosity in Chicago. Wynn is originally from Pennsylvania, but she moved here to Chi-Town and she's been here since 1993. So in my mind, she's a Chicagoan. She taught art at a public and private school, at a summer art camp, and a maximum security prison. Check that out. Her passion is also documentary filmmaking, and she's currently working on a short film about Alzheimer's and her mom's plight with that disease. Wynn currently teaches grades 3 through 5, K through 5 for the Waukegan School District, and she got her endorsement for special ed to focus on ADHD, Autism and Behavior Disorders. And this winter, she's converting her students' artwork to videos to be on YouTube so we can all enjoy them, which I think is spectacular. Everybody, please help me welcome Wynn Harrison. Woo! Ow! Okay, round of applause. Hello, Lovey. How are you?
Great. I'm doing
You're
wonderful. We
great.
go back tomorrow. We go back to school tomorrow.
I know, that's
I
right.
know.
Lots going on. Lots going on.
Definitely a lot going on.
I know you've been busy. Well,
Very.
we're going to talk about teaching and just everything under the sun. But before we jump into that, I would love for our viewers to hear about your incredible collections and your found art objects. I was recently at your place, and it's like a museum in there. So it really. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how that got started?
I think years ago I had my first found, I actually got it from Harvey. This is a person who's well known for collecting found objects and stuff toy art.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with it. For example, I believe I got it was like, it looked like a box, but it was like found object on
Yeah.
it. I believe I showed it to you. And
Yeah. Yeah.
then a lot of the artists that I have, a lot of the art that I collect them from people who are self-taught. I met
Okay.
them at art shows. I met them at whether it's they'll have like an outdoor what do you call it, art exhibition.
Yeah.
What I love about it is that it's not it's more it's raw and
It's
it's coming from a place of intuition. So not caught up in the intellectual process. And that's
yeah.
what I like. I think when you get caught
Yeah.
up in the intellectual process, you kind of lose sight of the actual inner creativity.
Yes. Yes.
Vibrant and colorful. That's why I love the kids' artwork. It's very
Exactly.
similar.
And for those of us who are in the Chicago area, you have an early piece that was done by Mr. Imagination. Am I
Yes,
correct?
I do. I do. So
Can you tell
years
us about that?
ago, this was way before he got famous. I met him. I think I met him at one of the it's one of the art what do you call it, like an outdoor art festival. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was like giving a demonstration to the kids. He's an amazing person. He's long gone. And I happened to buy this piece from him. It's made of from leftover like the bottle cap. And he put them
Right.
all together.
I
And
know.
it was really I loved it. And I won't sell it. And people are willing to, pay a lot of money for it. But for me, it's very
Wow.
personal.
That could be your nest egg there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about the money. It's like it reminds me of the conversations we've had. I learned
Obviously.
a lot from him. He's the one that got me really hooked on outsider art.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've been in love with it since then.
100%. And girl, like I remember, I don't know, I think I was like in my 20s, like riding the L past his apartment. I feel like it was like near like Lincoln and Diversity or something. And
Right.
he had this big thing in the window and like Mr. Imagination, all his art was like in the window and you'd be like, what
Oh,
is happening in
amazing.
there? The guy is amazing.
He
But
is.
so you personally are an artist yourself,
Yes, I
and you do what's called mixed media sculptures, yes?
am. Mhm.
And so we would love to know a little bit about those and what is your inspiration when you're doing those pieces?
Well, I think a lot of it comes from, for example, people I met over the years. Recently I was at my friend's apartment and he has an incredible collection. And it's
Yeah,
the way that he arranged the pieces, the way that he took found objects or things he collected.
yeah.
It's something I like. I think of it as storytelling. I think that's a good way to put it. So when you look at, like, for example, the one I did recently for Cabinet of Curiosity, there's a story behind it. He wanted to do something related to prayer. And ironically, a week before my aunt, the one I'm very close to, Dr. Goldie Meyer, and I was very close, she died a week before. So I was
Mm.
thinking about her and I was thinking about my prayer man. And so I took the Barbie dolls and I cut them. My brother called me a Barbie slayer. So I cut them up and I shaved the head. And it sounds morbid, but I was thinking in terms of what kind of visual representation can I use to show prayer, to show, and there's a butterfly in there. So I do a lot of research. There are different symbolism in my work. So I do a combination of research. I get ideas from people's homes, art festivals, everywhere, even
Sure.
when I'm walking around.
Sure. And we had posted one of your pieces on the Creative Tribe Dojo Facebook page, and
Right,
it was like a almost like a small house with the
right,
body inside, and then on the right side there it looked like you had words that were
right,
glued on there. And
right.
so, can you just tell us a little bit about those words and what the meaning was of those
Well,
words?
I was talking about the butterfly metamorphosis. The butterfly had a very spiritual meaning in a lot of religion, even in the Hispanic cultures. Like the monarch butterfly had a huge significance to them, and it had to do with they fly. It's ironic. I don't know if it's ironic. I think it's meant to be. They always fly down to the small little village in Mexico, and they always land on Day of the Dead. So to them, the
Oh,
butterfly symbolizes one who has died. It's like the loved ones are coming and say goodbye. And
right.
when my father died, I know it sounds weird, but that butterfly came in. I was waiting. We were all like watching his body. It's a part of our Jewish religion, and the
Yeah.
butterfly just came swooping in out of nowhere. So I'm
Oh,
going, okay, Dad, that must be you. I know. I just feel like there's a lot of symbolism in our life, and I think I incorporate that in my artwork.
girl, I have to tell you that when my mother passed away, we were driving home from the funeral home, which she had like a 17-hour wait. It was insane because she was so popular. And like we were exhausted. And we came home and we found a dog on the side of the road. And I said to my husband, like, that's the spirit of my mom. And then we took that dog home and we only had it for a short time. Because we were living in a trailer at that point, actually, which was wild and tiny. And so the dog was short lived, and we ended up taking it to somebody who could take care of it. But I totally understand that, right? Like the spirit of my mom, I felt like it was in the dog.
Exactly. So
Uh, Not
right,
weird
I
at
do a
all.
lot of storytelling. So mine is like storytelling and research and symbolism. I just think I think art can tell a story.
I love that. I love that. And I do just want to say, because we have a lot of folks viewing right now, your friends are saying that they're on here. Hi, friends. Say hi to everyone.
Oh,
Hi, everyone.
everybody.
Hi, friends of Wynn. So if you guys in the viewing audience have questions, feel free to type them in the comments section, and then I will read them out to Wynn so we can ask her during the interview, because this is your time to get to know the ins and outs of the infamous Wynn Harrison. How it works, how it happens. Love it. Okay, so my next question for you is about the fact that you're an art teacher. So you teach art at an elementary school in Waukegan.
Mhm.
And just to review, for those of you who might have tuned in a little late and missed the intro, and Wynn teaches art, and is it fair to say that most of your students, or a large percent of your students, are native Spanish speakers?
I would say a large majority.
Uh-huh.
There's five second language. The majority of the demographic is Hispanic and then African American and then white.
Right.
We teach, multiculturalism, like we have Black History Month, we have Hispanic History Month.
Sure.
We really incorporate, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, as a writer, I'm very fascinated with language, right? And also a visual artist myself. So I'm very fascinated with like how we can use both words and images. And I know because you had told me about this the other day, like gestures to convey our message.
Exactly.
And one of the things there's so many things about you that I think are fascinating, but one of the things that I'm really intrigued by is that I do have to say that you are hard of hearing
Right.
and you are teaching these children, many of whom English is their second language, and
Mhm.
you're in a classroom where now people are wearing masks, so you
Right.
can't lip read, and you're teaching them art. So, how does it work? How do you do it? How do you convey all
Well,
of that to your
Well,
kids?
right now, I'm still working on that. And I know we talked about like having a microphone, but during the
Right.
meantime, well, the biggest thing for me, was really amazing to me, those kids could take advantage of me, and they don't.
They
And from
could.
day one, I think, okay, hey guys, I'm hard of hearing. Let's have some respect to I'm not going to be able to read your lip. And I think talking from your heart and just being honest, hey, I know you guys could take advantage, but please don't do that. I'm here to teach. I want to help you. Please help. I need your help. And the kids love helping. And I think when I said, I need your help,
Yeah.
and I've had kids who volunteer to go, oh, we'll help. And they'll write it down for me. Like if a person had a question, they'll go, well, we'll help you. Or if a person is Spanish speaking, I have a person who can speak Spanish. And it's like there's a lot of interpretation, from
Oh,
Spanish to English. I don't know Spanish. So I've had kids come up and they were all working together. And it's
wow.
really, truly, I almost feel like I really got to know them better than ever. I think for the first time, they really got to know me. I got to know them, and they know that I'm passionate, and they really work hard in the project. And I have visual examples on the board. Everything's all very visual. I'm using Google Classroom. I use YouTube videos. I focus more on the visual because that they have a hard time, not because of the language. I think the visual language is easier for them to understand. And I
Right.
think most of us, even including myself, I think because of technology and because of the world we live in, I think we're more visual more than ever. That's just the way we communicate. I
That's
feel like the written language, very often, I text somebody, you send somebody a text and it gets lost in translation. And that's
Mhm.
not really what I meant. So I
Mhm.
feel like that visual language is right there, it's in front of you. So on the board, whenever doing a lesson, I have examples I've made. I go, it has to look like that. You know what I mean? But not for them to copy, but just give them an example. And I also give visual demonstration. They're watching me doing it. It's a
Right.
big difference than me verbally.
Right.
And that's why they
Explain.
do an amazing job. Because
Yeah.
in my classroom, I focus more on visual communication. We have
Sure.
learning targets. They know what my learning targets, and that it's part of the curriculum, and they're
Mm.
able to follow it. But I show it visually.
You show it visually. And then I remember that one of the things that you had said to me is that sometimes you use your body. So if you're like, okay, guys, we're going to draw
So like
parallel
this,
lines,
parallel line.
and
Exactly.
you like use
Right.
your arms to show them, which I
Right.
thought was just so amazing. And also, I mean, I don't know if this is like a culturally insensitive or weird thing to say, but like whenever I go to Pilsen, for example, which is a predominantly Latino
Right.
community
Right.
here in Chicago, I'm always amazed at the artistry, like the murals, right? And just the colors and the designs that are just sort of part of everyday life. And it's like you drive from another neighborhood into Pilsen and it's like, whoa, you're just in this different world, in addition to the language and other cultural
Right.
differences. But so I wonder if, perhaps specifically those kids, that they maybe are visual learners, that might be like a cultural paradigm that they bring to the equation, and they walk into art class and they go, ah, here's a
Exactly.
place where like I can just communicate in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. Well, and also the culture, they're very colorful. There's a
Right.
lot of symbolism,
Right.
like Day of the Dead. I can go through so many different various, and it's not just that culture, it's also, almost all cultures. There's always a visual representation that represents who they are.
Exactly.
As opposed to verbally, you can't verbally describe a culture. It's not accurate. And unfortunately, when you verbally describe it, it's really our point of view. It's not their point.
Well, we
It's
could
not,
talk about that for 8 hours, and
oh,
I
absolutely.
agree. I totally agree, and
Right.
whatever splaining it, white splaining it.
Exactly.
That expression. Yeah, it's just like, no, we're not going to tell you how to express yourself. We're going to give you the tools in which to express yourself and then
Right.
take it and run with it. And they do, I'm sure. And I've worked with children as well. And they're just absolutely fascinating. One other piece I just want to explain to our listening audience, which is just to show you again how fascinating Wynn is that, so with COVID, of course, masks in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
So, kids she can't lip read and she can't see their mouths. And my husband, Johnny's a DJ, and Wynn was over here the other day, and we were talking about like setting up a podium with a microphone. Because for those of you who don't know, there's like, what's the program? Like Google
Oh, yeah,
dictation.
it's called Google. It's like, I believe it's called Google not Google Translate. It's a transcription.
Transcribe.
But
Yeah,
on what I can do is like I can flip my screen. I click on Google and it's
right.
like voice transcription, but I have to be loud enough, and everything that shows up on my screen. So
Exactly.
on my laptop.
Right.
Right.
So like this is what we're thinking, like what a cool idea to have like a speaker's podium, and the kid who wants to share goes to the podium. They have a microphone with maybe like speakers that are in the ceiling so that the sound is loud enough so it goes to Wynn's computer, and then she can get the transcribed version of what they're saying. Can we just take a moment and realize how incredibly creative that is, and what dedication and passion you have? I feel like I want to cry, to connect with these kids and to share your love and your passion for art, for expression, through image, through color, through design, to find that place of connection with them. And that, I just got like bumps on my arm saying that, because really that's why I do everything that I do, right? That's why you and I are soul sisters, right? It's like, how do we connect across the illusion of difference, right?
Right.
Because we're human and we can find our place together.
Right. And I think it's important to talk from the place of your heart. The kids connect. They connect. It took me a long time to figure it out. They connect the most when you speak from the heart. When you're too busy being intellectual, trying to, I think you have to have that connection. And it took me a long time to realize it.
Yeah.
And I work in an amazing school, and I think they were trying to teach me that. It took me a while, and it worked. Yeah.
The kids are trying to teach you that. I love that. And I will just throw out here that if anybody has any questions along the way here, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I will read them to Wynn so that she can address them. On a personal note, I would say that I totally understand what you're saying about the energetics, and actually, shameless plug, I'm teaching a class tomorrow through Creative Tribe Dojo, which is called How to Identify and Build Your Tribe. And you know what it's about? Not numbers, not likes, not any of that. It's about soul to soul connection, starting that conversation, being vulnerable, being authentic, online or in person, wherever you show up in the world, and just being like, hi, this is me. And you know what happens? People see that and they resonate with it, and they love it, and they want to be with you in whatever way, right? Professionally, personally, academically, etc. So kudos. All right, Lovey. Now, next question. We are currently in a pandemic, in case you guys didn't know what. And, again, we are wearing masks. So let's take it outside of the classroom. I would love to know, in terms of your creativity, what are some of the ways that you are communicating with people, for example, in a restaurant when you're trying to order food, or just as you go about your world? What are some of the creative ways that you've figured out to be heard and understood, and also to understand what other people are saying to you?
Well, I think, the most, especially during the pandemic when a lot of places were closed, I connected with a lot of people on Facebook. I tell people I'm a Facebook whore for anybody. I have some amazing connections. I mean, I talk to people through all kinds of Facebook groups, all kinds of artist groups. There's also, political group, political in terms of art, how we can educate. I mean, I learned a lot, and I have people from all over the United States, some over in Europe, and I love it. We're very transparent, and some conversations are uncomfortable, some are necessary. That's been wonderful. In terms of me going out, like during the summer, it was best for me to be outside. It's really to have clear masks, but it's not the same thing. and I make the best of it. But I rely heavily on Zoom, FaceTiming, you name it.
Right, right. Well, and I love that you brought that up actually because, I almost feel kind of guilty or weird saying this, but in some ways the pandemic has been spectacular because it's been like a forced sabbatical, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess I'm an ambivert. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm an introvert, but I do enjoy my personal space. I'm not going to lie. And I also just like something like this where it's just like, we can connect and we can get right to the heart of everything. Um, and also, one weird thing I think, which is also cool, is that like on Zoom, like I'm kind of short. I'm 5'3", okay? But like in real life, like people can see that I'm short. But on Zoom, like I'm just myself. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're short or tall or like whatever your physical dynamics are, right? The cool thing is on Zoom, like you're just the spirit in the universe, like talking to people. You're a head in a square or a rectangle. I mean, right?
Very true.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
And
true.
so we can just connect like on the things that matter. I guess this is what I'm saying, right?
Right. Very
And
true.
it's not like, oh, is that a designer, shirt that you're wearing? Like, who cares?
And I also think that the connection helped us when we all went back into teaching. There was
Yeah.
like a lot more love out there. I don't know why it is. It's like I felt like we needed a connection. You know, I agree.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Um, let's just take a moment and feel the love. Ah, can you feel it? I do. I really do, actually. I like really do. And like you, I've made friends like all over the world. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like
With some
right
amazing
here.
people out there. Amazing.
It's amazing. But you know what? This actually brings up a really another interesting topic I'd like to say about you, which is that, and for people that know you, they might know this. You went back to school at 55 years old to get your teaching certificate. And I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on Facebook Live, but that is badass. Like, that is amazing.
Thank you.
And
And I have to
you,
credit my mom now, because I was going through a divorce, and my mom said, "You got to make a living." I said, "I'm nobody's going to hire me." And she said, "You need to go back and get your certification. You are meant to teach." I go, "Mom, I'm too old." And luckily, I got hired. And I mean, and I'm very blessed. It's like a full circle.
you're blessed, but you did it yourself.
I didn't. Yes, I did. It was tough.
Take the credit, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
100%. And that's a lot of discipline, right?
Right.
And you're a single mom and you're still raising your kids, which is huge, right? And
Mhm.
just many, many different things. And is it okay? Do you mind telling us about the program that you did in case anybody out there would like to also get their
Back and
degree?
get the certification. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know, I did it was at Northeastern, which is in
yeah,
Chicago. And then
yeah,
they have a program for teachers who already have their bachelor's, and you just
yeah.
go back and get your certification. So what
Uh-huh.
I had, it was like a year and a half program, and I had to take different courses. I had to do student teaching, and it just took me a year and a half. I'm sure they have a lot of online program. I mean, this
Sure.
was like back in 2011. And there's a
But
lot of, yeah.
no, I know. But sorry, but also I wanted you to say like what you had that arrangement where your degree was free, but then you have to teach
Oh, no,
that
now
part.
no, that's not that is my certification. And
Oh,
also,
okay.
so what happened is that because I'm at a high need school, which means I'm in a Title I school. And they had a
Title
big
one.
need, and I got approached, hey, because I have all the kids. I mean,
Yeah.
I have over 600 kids. I have a lot of kids with ADHD, autism, you name it.
Wow. Wow.
So it kind of makes sense. The thing is, the only drawback is I have to teach 3 more years at Title I school. It's like, which is fine with me.
Yeah,
But it
exactly.
was great. I'm glad I did it. You gotta learn. It makes you a better teacher. It
Exactly.
helped me like understand them better.
And so that's what I'm trying to say, When is what was the name of that program that you did where
Okay, so it was at Grand Canyon University in
Grand Canyon University?
Arizona.
Okay.
And it was just an endorsement. I could have gone for my master's, but then it would have been taking me forever to make it up. But
Okay.
I'm fine. It was an endorsement. So
Cool.
it was like over 18 credits. You have to have a what do you call it? GPA of above three. You have to have a GPA of above 3.0.
Right.
Otherwise, it won't reimburse you. So it
Oh,
was hard. I was doing that and then working full time.
exactly. Exactly. And by the way, this show is all about creativity. which we did say earlier. And so the question is, what does that to do with creativity? Everything, right? Because the reason I'm so jazzed about creativity and like literally talk about it 7 days a week, like my entire life, all the time, is because like we can use creativity in our lives to solve problems. So you could have been like, dude, I don't have the time to go back to school, or I don't have the money to go back to school, and that would be a great idea, but where am I supposed to come up with how much it costs? But then you found this program where you could go for free. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, that is not free, I understand, because you're doing the Title I,
Nothing to put
etc.
out, but it's still, I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of federal government programs. I
Exactly.
recommend to go online. I was just lucky
Okay.
because this person came to me, he represents the Waukegan School District.
Nice.
So that was wonderful about that school district. They're all about, like, for example, we were talking about using visual, like a parallel line. I learned that from doing the GLAD training. So I think
okay.
it's really called GLAD training, and they're all about visual cues, how you use that in teaching. So that's what made me a better teacher.
Sure,
doing all the
sure.
professional development. That helps you be more creative. I mean,
Yeah,
creativity is not about making something. It's really a different way of doing things.
different
Right?
way of thinking.
Exactly. That's why I
So,
tell my kids.
and it's
Different way
true.
of thinking. It's not, I mean, people say, oh, I'm not a good artist. I go, but you have a different way of thinking. That's
Right.
what I tell my daughters all the time.
Right.
Dare to think differently, and
Yeah.
people are
No,
afraid to do that.
and I mean, you and I were talking the other day, like I'm on a mission to showcase like all these different creatives. Like right now, I want to get like somebody who does coding and programming on the show. Yeah, because that's incredibly creative, right? I want to get like a landscape architect. I want to get, designers of all kinds, not just people who make things. What do they call it now? Like the intellectual careers or whatever. There's like a name for it, right? Like many of us make experiences, right? That's creativity, right? Yeah. Anyway, okay. So let's get a little bit granular for a second. I want you to tell us about one specific piece of curriculum that you did. Okay, like something that a class that you designed that was just absolutely fantastic that the kids took and they ran with it, because anyone who teaches knows, like, and you just remember that thing for the rest of your teaching career and try to like replicate it again, right? So like what was a lesson that you taught, and what did they actually do? Like, tell us what they made and what supplies they used and all that good stuff.
Well, I'm going to talk about the recent one because I was
Okay.
actually very surprised. So I was working with the fifth grade team, and they're working on the Holocaust project. I'm not sure why in December. And I said, oh, I can. And they go, can you come up with an art project? I go, let me think about it. Go to the book called I Never Saw Another Butterfly, which was a collection of poems and drawings by kids that were done at the camp during the Holocaust.
Okay.
And I'm like thinking, I mean, I did with 8th graders. I go, how am I going to do this with 5th graders? And it's a very powerful, and it seems like almost a perfect theme to discuss, especially now because of the pandemic. So at first, I read the poem. We talked about what different words meant. I didn't think they were going to get it. And then we talked about the pandemic. The pandemic is not exactly the same. They were kept inside. So it was a real challenge. I mean, it was like every week I had, again, creativity. I go, okay, so not quite getting that poem, even though different words. I'm going to try a different method. I go, pandemic. And that's when the light bulb went off. Then I go, oh, well, that makes sense. You know what I mean? And we talked about, to get the 5th grade to talk about their feeling. I talked about how I felt, not be able to see their family or loved ones have died. I mean, it's not exactly the same as the kids during the Holocaust who never saw the family again.
Right.
So they had an imagery called the butterfly. So they had to draw, they had to do poetry. And I don't want to get into too much, but what I'm saying is that I was amazed at the depth of the poem. I mean, it just made me cry. And the imagery, like, for example, like they showed like the imagery on a butterfly. They were all given a butterfly template.
So they traced a butterfly template.
The butterfly. And
Yeah.
they have to take the poem, for example, if you have like, for example, barbed wire or feeling caged. I felt caged in during the pandemic. You maybe draw a cage, or maybe you're there, or like they're crying. So there'll be different images. And it was, I mean, I started a sloppy copy. I was really, truly amazed.
Sure.
And I can't wait to exhibit it. So it's very powerful. And the kids were really intrigued. They were really engaged. And I was a little worried. You have to be very careful, especially that age group. I
Well,
didn't go
yeah,
into
fifth grade there's a lot happening in fifth grade.
very tough. I didn't go into they were how they died. It was just more about, they couldn't do the family.
Yeah,
It was really powerful. I mean,
yeah,
some of the stuff that they wrote, and it was just, I think it really
beautiful.
made them appreciate the Holocaust.
Yeah, yeah. We do have a question for you. Johnny Price would like to know how many students are in your classes and how many kids do you teach a week?
Oh boy, I teach over 600 kids. I have
A
20
week.
classes, and they keep growing. I have between 25 to 28 kids per class. So I have 3 fifth grade classes, 3 fourth grade classes. I mean, I have over 600. So every 4 days we're in rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of, I don't
A
know
lot of kids.
how I do it, but.
I don't know how you do it either. So that's a fantastic question. Thank you, Johnny Price. And I guess another question I'd like to say on that, for me, when it comes to creativity, I mean, we're friends, so my energy
Right.
is fairly unlimited. If I could sleep 2 hours a night, it'd be better, right? Because I have so many things I want to do. But at the same time, like I'm vegetarian, like I exercise, like I have a definite system to keep my momentum going, so I can do all the things that I want to do. So how about you? That's a lot of kids, 600 kids. You're juggling a lot of things. How do you keep your inspiration?
Well, I think, well, for me, I have to be, well, the classroom is very different in terms of my artwork. I'm very organized. It's ironic, and people say, they come in my classroom, oh my God, you're so organized. I
Yeah.
have to be organized. If I'm
Yeah.
not organized, then, because creativity is also about organization too.
Right.
People think, they probably think that all creatives have this, chaos, but that's not necessarily for me, it's okay to have chaos, but I think when you're working with kids, it's organized. I have, things I have to follow in terms of learning targets, the curriculum.
Right.
They have to be, and then I think for me, I have my own studio. It's organization. I think the biggest thing though is for me getting to it, getting to my art, even though I'm organized.
Oh,
And
so now we're talking about your own personal art,
yeah,
which for most of us gets pushed to the back of the burner, right? It's just
exactly.
like, what the what? So, and actually, well, let me ask you one other quick question, then we're going to segue into personal creativity. So,
Yeah.
another question was, do you ever have any discipline problems with all those different ages and groups of kids?
I mean, do I have discipline? I mean, discipline.
Do you have discipline problems in the class, and like, how do you manage that?
Oh, yeah, of course we
Lindsay
all
Paul
have.
is one.
I think that I find, of course I have it.
Yeah.
I find maybe they're not understanding the lesson. I'll go over to them. Usually I'll take them in the hallway and
Yeah.
I'll talk to them, there's something going on. Like this one kid, she didn't quite understand. And then she got upset. And then when she understood, I think it's just talking to them and not punishing them, like, well, why didn't you do that? Because a very good friend of mine who's also teaches theater, and we were talking about in the beginning, I was
Theater.
like, right, I wanted them to do things a certain way, but she said, but you're really taking away from your creativity. I go, you have a very good point. Because I'm trying to follow the curriculum, try to follow the learning target. So I was able to find a balance because I do want to give those kids the freedom. And it's amazing that they have some great ideas.
Yeah.
So I think the kids finding out what's going on. Sometimes it could be something going at home. Maybe
Right.
they really don't understand the lesson. Maybe it's a language. There's always going to be a language, different there.
Mm. Well, and somehow I just got an analogy of like when you go to the doctor and they're like, okay, what's going on? You have 5 seconds to tell me your physical challenge, and like chop, 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 because they have so many people that they have to, so many patients they have to treat during a day. And I mean, I think that could be a danger for you as well with so many students, that it would just be like a blur of faces and you're like, yeah, okay, what's going on at home? But the fact that you're able to like dial in and really energetically pay attention to each of them and give them your undivided attention like that, again, I mean,
It's not
that's
easy,
tough.
but yeah, we do
It's
our
tough.
best.
That's special. That's very special.
Mhm.
About you, 100%, and the way that you, just the way that you live your life, the way you go through life, right, and connecting with people.
Yeah,
It's
I think it's just following into it. I always follow my gut. I tell people just follow your gut. If something, and 99% I'm using, and I think because I was a parent, I am not a parent. I'm still a parent.
you're like, I'm still a
I'll
parent.
always be parenting, but
Yeah.
I think that really helped me a lot, tune into those kids, because now I wanted to be a place for them to release whatever it is,
Right.
going on in their life.
Right. And to feel safe, right? Safety
Right. I want
is
to be so safe.
everything. Beautiful. Okay, so let us circle back to momentum, inspiration. My two words for 2022 are integration and expansion.
Yeah.
These are going to be my guiding lights, as I move forward on all the different creative iterations and projects that I'm working on. So for yourself in that spectacular studio, and I wish we could just like and go back to your studio because you guys there's like so much stuff in there that it's insane. Like all these fun supplies to just so yeah, like what are some of the blocks that you have to working on your own art? And well, let's just start with that first.
I think the biggest block for me is time. Even, I mean, when we were remote last year, it was the most exhausting. I mean, after I was done teaching remotely, I was just too tired.
Yeah.
And I think, and even now, there's a lot of, I mean, we have a lot of stuff that needs to be done. I've finished slide training we're talking about. I have all these different, I have a countless different, and right now we might be going back remote, that we have to, I think my work is taking up a lot of my time.
Right.
I just it's been a challenge.
Yeah.
And
so time for sure, which I think any person watching this can for sure relate to. What about how do you feel about the process of being seen? It's interesting because there are many people that I've asked about. John Morishita's watching. Hi, John. Um, Many people that I've asked about being on the show, they're just like, oh, I don't know, because this is Facebook Live, and what if I say something weird and it's going to be like recorded forever, that everyone can see it. And I do respect that, like the process of kind of coming out as an artist and being seen as a creative in your own right? Like there's the classroom, but then there's your work, right? And your process and your vision and your voice. And so I guess, that's another part of my question is like, how do you feel about being seen? I mean, you're here, you're on the show, you're talking about your world.
I'll be honest with you. I probably went through a change of clothes like 10 times, which I wear, and I'm just going to laugh.
I love it. Well, you look fabulous.
No, I'm gonna tell you. So I went on FaceTime with a friend of mine. She's another art teacher. We're both about the same age. I thought, do you see any wrinkles? I like to wear my neck up. And I was like worried about, and my hair. Nobody has seen me gray. It was more like a visual, but I was excited by sharing my creativity because that I'm very confident about.
Right. I love you said that. Yeah.
And I want to be able to inspire people. But yeah, I was kind of worried about how would I look? Would people understand me? Blah, blah, blah. So
sure. I think people are understanding you just fine. I think they're just like, what? She's so amazing. Yeah. But I love that you said that actually, because a lot of what my intention is when I'm teaching and when I'm doing workshops, I'm working with people one-on-one, is to create a very, very safe space for people to explore and take risks, even if they don't know the outcomes. And here's a news flash, guys. Like even before the pandemic, we still had no idea what the outcome was for most things, right? We don't know, but we had a sense of comfort of like, if I cross my T's and I dot my I's, I'm going to know. But in actuality, like a lot of stuff we don't know, right? So what does that have to do with creativity? Everything, right? Because, what's that famous Picasso quote, about like, destruction, Guernica, right? It's like everything that's destroyed ends up reinventing into something else that's absolutely spectacular. But if we don't take that risk and jump on and be like, oh, how does my hair look in the Zoom, or whatever, like we're never going to have that experience.
Exactly.
Right. And we could live our lives in this very small space experientially where we're not open to trying something new.
Well, I'll give you an example. Like I met a lot of people I met, for example, the person I went to his home recently, and I met him it was like an art event, and we kept in touch. He's the one that's very much he's the one that actually inspired me in terms of doing something with Alzheimer's. So his home just inspired me to look at art differently. So I think the more you open up to strangers, now I'm always talking, my father taught me that, is to always talk to strangers. Because you never, I mean, look, I didn't know you either when I first met you. No. So I think that, also part of the creative process is to be open and be willing to meet other people. And don't worry about what they think of you, and they don't like you, then so be it, you'll meet somebody else. I just think it's important to keep that. I think that's what the pandemic did. It kind of broke down that barrier. Normally if you see them in person, Feel like
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to them. I don't know them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think they depend on a state because they can. I think that we need to. I hope that after this passed on, that we continue to talk to strangers. We continue
Right.
talking to other people.
Right.
We get ideas. I get ideas all the time.
Well, and it sounds like you and I were both very influenced by our parents. Like my mom used to always say to me, like if my sister and I would come in and be like, "Oh, we're bored, like there's nothing to do," and then my mom would say, like people who are bored with themselves.
Exactly.
Go create something. Go build something.
Exactly.
Go read
Or
something.
exactly.
Like write a play and perform it. Like just forget about it. I'm not your entertainer. Figure it out. I mean, this was
Exactly.
mom,
That's how my
dropping
parents were.
science. Yeah, exactly. But that was a blessing because it's just like, okay, you know what? We weren't overstimulated. We weren't like going from activity to activity in the back of an SUV. We were like in the yard making mud pies,
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
we play with cardboard boxes, and that was our theater.
Boom. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Oh, that's precious. Okay. Gosh, there's like so many things I want to ask you. So, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, if time and money were not an object, right? So you have unlimited time, unlimited money, no barriers. Okay. Dream scenario. Let's put our dream hats on. Okay. Here we go. What would you do? What would you do with your wonderful creative, visions?
Oh, you mean if money wasn't an issue?
If money was an issue, you had all the time in the world, you could do anything. What would you do?
I would definitely travel. I would travel. I want to go back to Europe. One of my best friend, I've known her since I was 5 years old. Maureen, you're on here. Anyway, I know I was 5. I don't know if she lived in Italy.
Oh, wow.
I would love to travel. I would love to do like different retreats, artist retreats. I love to cook, different cooking.
Right.
I would love to, and I would also love to donate their money to something related to the arts, but something more for the kids who can't afford it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
What else? There's a lot. I don't know.
What would you want to do in terms of your art or in terms of the documentary film that you want to make about your
I
mom?
definitely want to. I'm working what I did. So while my mom was going through Alzheimer's, it was my brother's idea. After he said he wanted me to post us getting together on Facebook.
Oh,
And
nice.
it made some people uncomfortable and some people love it. So every week I would post photos of us on Facebook. So I have like over 5 years of photos. And then when my mom was in hospice, we all stayed with her in the room. So it's my sister and her kids, me and my kids, and then both aunts came in, my brother came in, and we were all there. And I filmed it, and I filmed it, and it looked like she was laying down. I filmed it with the guy who played the heart, and the film was after, and I filmed all of us just being together in the room.
Sure.
So I want to put it, and talking with Michael, the person I was talking about, who he did a film on Alzheimer's because his partner for many years, his husband for many years, he had Alzheimer's. So I got kind of the idea from him. I just think I just want to put together like a story. I have a lot of photos, so that's something that I would love to put together. I have all this stuff just to show that. Because I really believe, and there's my moment of clarity, and I do believe that she heard me. She just couldn't verbalize it. Nobody really knows.
Okay.
So I wanted her to share that piece with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I hear that. And I know from experience that like when the stars align and you're ready to make that film, right? That documentary film, like everything's just going to be like, and it's just going to be harmonic convergence, and it's going to be incredible, and it's going to happen, and we're all going to want to watch it. Like, absolutely. I saw something the other day. Evidently it's been going on for like a year, of this older gentleman in Skokie, which is nearby where I live, and he's literally been going on Facebook Live every Saturday night and playing like jazz piano, and he's like 92. Okay, and he's been doing it for like a year and a half. And girl, he's got like this huge following of all these people.
I believe it.
Like he started a show. It's like his show from his living room.
There's no age barrier. There's
no age barrier.
There's no age limit. I think people are afraid. I think, and even myself, I think we're afraid. What if we do it and we fail? But so what? I mean, when I went back, when my mom said, you need to go back, and Mom, I'm 55 years old. You're telling me to go back and get nobody's going to hire me. But look what happened. I got hired. It was rough, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let's end on this note. If you were going to give advice to somebody who is reinventing themselves, perhaps over 50, and trying to figure out what it is that they want to do next, what would you tell them in terms of their
Oh,
path?
I tell them to go for it. I mean, if that doesn't work, then try something else. And I've been through so many trial and error. I still have a book that I wrote years ago
Yep.
that, eventually, I mean, it was all typewritten, typewriters back then. And my advice to you is to say you've written something, to
Yeah.
put it away, maybe use it for later, but don't throw it away. Because
Right.
maybe you'll end up doing it later. And I would just say, just keep trying and just, there's always, I mean, it's okay for things in a back burner. Maybe try something else. Maybe have short-term goals, but don't be afraid. I mean, believe me, I was terrified when I went back.
Right.
You just have to keep trying because if you don't, then you're going to be sorry. I mean, maybe
You don't if you don't try.
yeah, you got to try. I mean, it's not going to harm you. I
Right.
mean, and I wouldn't let pride get in the way, and I wouldn't worry about what other people think.
Right.
Do it for yourself.
I love
Don't.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. I recently with my curriculum, I've been talking about that in my experience there are 3 stages to the creative process. There's probably like 170 stages, but I'm narrowing it down to 3. Okay, and so the first one is like incubation, okay? And
Right.
not to be like super hi Sherry Lasher, great interview. Thanks, Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Wave to your friend. She's on here. And not to be like super Chicago centric, but for those of us who grew up going to the Museum of Science and Industry, where they would have those little chicks that were hatching in the incubators,
Yeah. I
remember
did
that? Yeah, and then you could like
cool.
go watch them and be like, oh my God, they're like moving,
That's
they're
really
breaking the
cool.
shell, they're coming out. So I feel like the creative process, the first stage is incubation. And we're in that chick phase, right? And we're in there, and maybe we're just like, "Dut, dut, 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 dut," and we're tapping on that shell. We're like, can I come out? Can I do this interview with Victoria on her
We did,
show? Can I paint this painting? Can I go out with a friend that I'd never met before? Whatever your thing is, right? And you expand sort of incrementally past your shell. Then so there's incubation. Then phase number 2 is creation, invention, making something, right? It's like you get out of the incubation, you're like, okay, I'm on fire, I'm doing it, I'm jumping in, I'm just gonna do it. And then stage 3 is sharing, connection, right?
Right.
Being seen, taking your show on the road. But the super fun newsflash to me is that it's incubation, invention, connection, and it's constantly going around in that circle. It's not a linear trajectory, right? It's an organic process. And
Right.
so we might be incubating with that book that we're working on that's in the back of our minds. And we might be making the curriculum that we're teaching in a class, and we might be sharing something
Right.
else, right?
Right.
But the super great news is wherever you're at on that process is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I'm going to recommend
Go, going.
don't very often people sabotage through self-talk.
Right.
Like with lies, like they want to, but they're like, oh, I can't, I'm too old, or nobody.
Whatever.
I mean, yeah, because
I don't have enough money. People are going to laugh at me.
Right.
People are going to laugh.
So plenty of other right. There is
Yeah.
a way to figure it out. Do it.
There is, there is. And the last thing that I want to say on that topic is, I call it my muse. And my muse is working overtime. She's just like so busy and she's always giving me these ideas. But the fact is that, whatever you call it, however you identify it, like your muse knows what it is that you're supposed to do here on this planet. And there are 3 questions that I ask everybody I work with. I am a creative path coach, by the way, and I work with individual clients and I teach classes through Creative Tribe Dojo. And here are the 3 questions. Who are you? Why are you here? And what's the story that you came to tell? And
Right.
you might answer those questions one way today, and you might answer those questions another way next week,
Exactly.
which is so cool
Yeah.
and totally fine, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of joy in there. There's a lot of curiosity and spontaneity and playful, childlike embracing of our potential and all that we are. And let's celebrate that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I adore you. You're spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for being a guest on the Victoria Reeves Show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. you.
Thank you very much. We will keep our eyes out for any and all things Wynn Harrison, and
Thank you.
keep us
Thanks
posted.
very much for having me.
Okay. Mwah.
Love you too.
Mwah. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.